Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family. Hey, Crazy Cool parents, welcome to the weekly Rethink in the holiday season.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, so Suzanne is buying presents. Everybody wants to know this, so you just tell them a little bit. Buying presents for 7 kids, a husband, now we got grandkids.
And they're by far the most fun to buy presents for.
Are you in chaos mode right now?
Yeah, pretty much. My poor husband has to crawl across boxes and paper and wrapping just to get into his bed at night.
And one of the things you've done is you've made a shift from retail shopping to online shopping. So you spend a lot of time in front of your computer these days.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. And I love it when they bring the packages to me, but I also don't mind ordering it and going and picking it up. But the fact that I don't have to walk up and down the aisles and spend money on things that I don't need to.
And we have a black Siberian husky who terrorizes, who's the nicest dog ever.
She just wants to smell you.
Yes, she just wants to lick you and be in your face. But the delivery drivers, to the delivery drivers, she looks like a wolf. And
then she kind of growls at him, but she's just talking to him. It's not a mean growl.
Yeah, that's her way of showing affection. To growl at you. And so anyway, it's just hilarious to watch the delivery drivers try to come deliver.
Pull up and see the dog and roll down the window and toss the package out. I actually have to return some mason jars that are broken because whichever delivery person delivered those.
But you know what? We don't experience this stuff anytime but December. November and December as the Christmas chaos starts to hit.
Right.
And it's not just buying presents either. It is just Christmas parties and end of school, and things are changing. We have Christmas break, which is awesome, but it creates its own element of chaos.
It's because you have to entertain and feed the children.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I spent, an hour and a half shopping for a Secret Santa for work. I mean, it's just, It's over and over and over. And it's different for everybody, but it's the same for everybody. It's just chaos.
It's a lot.
In Christmas, yeah. And so
a lot of to-dos added to our already very long to-do list.
And then we have, as we talk about Crazy Cool Family, we talk about the different relationships. And one of them is our marriage. And marriage is just such an important relationship. And I don't know about you guys, but we were just thinking about that, how many times our marriage did not improve in December. It was, we fought some things that were, that were just difficult. I mean, a lot of times for me, I'm a CPA by trade, but I've been in a financial role in companies and things. And a lot of times the end of year is a busy time for me, just having to work more in the midst of all the busyness of chaos. And so that's been a stress point for our marriage sometimes, in that, I'm needed to be more in the house because Suzanne needs more help, especially when we had smaller kids. And yet I'm having to work more. What happens when we do that? And it caused some stresses in our marriage, right?
Yeah, I think that the absence of that and the feeling of it's like the chaos started coming in more and more, and I needed more adult help.
Right.
But for me, as I look back at Christmas past, at our 27 Christmases, we're about to have our 28th Christmas, right? One of the ways that I felt like that we failed to connect as a married couple in the chaos of Christmas was that I was hard to help. I was controlling, and I had a certain way that I wanted it to look, or I wanted it to be done. And Don would try to help. He would step in to help, but he wouldn't do it right ever.
Well, and I was also trying to enforce a budget. That because I'm more the finance guy.
Nobody wants to be told what you can and can't spend.
and so, honey, we can spend this much money, and how can I help?
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt like I was just on the periphery, trying to help and trying to penetrate, and just wasn't working because, what I would do would be wrong. And because and then I would try to enforce, well, honey, if you just do it, I know you're stressed, honey, but if you would just do it this way, then, or let me put this budgeting system in place, or let me build this, whatever the system was. And I would try to impose my will. So when you were hard to help, I think that made me work, because I'm pretty much a persistent guy.
For sure.
And so
it's
I
a
would
great
try.
quality.
I would try to, well, sometimes, but I would try to do more. And I would try to push in, which caused conflicts, and and there's even just stresses that we just remembered, like, I remember we would try to go shopping together.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of that together. So we would
me trying to include him, trying to show him that the budget that he gave me was absolutely ridiculous. We couldn't possibly buy all the toys we needed for that.
And so I remember our anniversary is on November 23rd, which is right around Thanksgiving. So many times we would try to get away over Thanksgiving. So it was a little
tradition that we started to celebrate our anniversary, but then also work toward the Christmas projects by going, and I would drag Don out shopping. Don is a unique guy in that he actually likes to shop
for the most part
for a certain time period, and
then I'm done.
Then your back starts hurting.
Yes. I get what I called mall. When we had malls, I called it the mall back, because the mall would make my back hurt over time. But I remember we went to that one. We were going to Hillsboro. And if you know Hillsboro, around this area, there's an outlet mall there that used to be a lot bigger and better than it is today. So we were going there, and we left our parents' house at Thursday afternoon to go stay at a bed and breakfast in Hillsboro, right as an ice storm hit. And it was like one of the world's worst ice storms in Texas. And we drove
If we remembered the year, we could probably tell them. They would be like, oh, I remember
that
too. I was here.
And we drove for 2 hours. Well, it actually took like about 4 hours, just 30 miles an hour through the ice, because we were just determined that we were going to make it to this bed in this little Honda Civic. Oh my goodness. It was a white knuckle drive the whole time. And so, but what was so cool was we finally got there, and we were so stressed. I mean, my shoulders were just done because I drove the whole way.
Don's a great driver.
But
weather.
But then we woke up the next Friday morning, and the ice had covered the road, and we had the whole outlet mall all to ourselves. Remember that, to go shopping?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So just what are your stories, and what are your marriage things that are happening? What are you doing to, basically it comes down to the busyness of Christmas and one of the things we talked about is that the busyness of Christmas is our enemy. Our spouse is not our enemy.
And I think that so many times what would happen is all that stress of Christmas, all the days that led up to Christmas would culminate on Christmas Eve. And while we were doing the last minute stressful things, stuffing the stockings, or wrapping the gifts, or Don was putting presents together, or whatever that is, 9 times out of 10, we would get in a fight that night. For whatever reason, I would be frustrated with him because he wasn't helping me at the level I wanted him to help, but yet he couldn't because I wouldn't allow him. And anyway, all of that would culminate in that. And we have just decided we're not going to let the enemy rob us of Christmas Eve anymore. He's not going to take the chaos and the busyness of the season and take that from our marriage anymore. And so we have thought about it, and we've got some things that we want to share with you so that you can take back that. If that resonates with you, if that happens to you too, you get caught up with the busyness, that gets in the middle of your marriage, and then you don't get to enjoy each other on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, when that's what the most important thing is. That was Jesus's birthday. How do we usher in the Savior of the world if we're angry at the person that is helping us hold our arms up in the battle?
And so, theme for the day, if you want to remember one thing that we're talking about, is the busyness of Christmas is our enemy, not our spouse.
Yeah.
That we are fighting the busyness of Christmas. We are not fighting our spouse. In fact, we are going to fight. With God's help and with changing our thinking, we're going to fight the busyness of Christmas to connect with our spouse. Right. We are going to make the busyness of Christmas our enemy, not our spouse, and we are going to find ways to instead get rid, or not, we can't get rid of the busyness of Christmas, but we can do different things. We can change our thinking and change our actions so that Christmas becomes a month or season of connecting
Connection.
with our spouse.
Yes.
And what if
Building the
what if
relationship.
you looked up after Christmas Day, after that fateful Christmas Eve night, and you said, "Hey, man, in this season, our marriage got better. What are we going to do to make that happen?" That may seem impossible to you, but we're just going to give you a few things that will help you,
Right.
and just to change the tide of the busyness of Christmas. Just a couple of things that will help you do that. And one of them is we want to purpose in Christmas, in the busyness of Christmas, to purpose to work together.
And so that's a super convicting one for me because for some reason I feel like I work better alone because I have ideas of what I want. But Ephesians 4:2 empowers us to work with others. It says, be completely humble and gentle and be patient, bearing with one another in love. And so as I apply that to, okay, purpose to work together, as I invite people in to work with me, to help me, I need to be humble and let go of my controlling mechanisms and let go of maybe even the ideas of how I want it, or at least communicate. I would love for you to help me stuff the why is that so hard for me to
I
say?
don't know.
Stuff the stockings. But will you put the candy cane on the top as it's hanging out, and just anyway, so that's one of the ways.
Well, I think one of the things that as a couple would be great to decide is who's in charge. Because once you decide who's in charge, then you kind of have roles to play. And
so that means I can boss you around if I'm in charge.
well, and yes, exactly. And
or if
so
you're in charge, you can boss me around.
and or maybe there's because exactly. And so and then if and I do think that you're in charge of Christmas, and so I allow that to be, that's something I want to see happen. And so then it becomes, and the reason I say that is because when both people are trying to work together and both people feel like they're in charge, it creates conflict. So just decide who's going to do it, who's responsible for it, and then and a lot of times that becomes the wife because they know the kids and they know some things like that. It doesn't have to be, but then once someone's in charge, then if that's husbands, if that's you, how are you going to help them? And just keep asking questions. And like I was saying before, man, imposing your will upon a situation doesn't work, especially when your wife is stressed.
Right.
It doesn't work well for me to say, well, honey, I have all your answers when you are stressed. And then because you're not going to be receptive to my response. But it works a whole lot better for me to say, how can I help?
Right.
What can I do? And understanding that a lot of times it's going to be, I don't know. And then you're going to have to, okay, well, what about this?
Yeah, can I do the dishes? Or wait, if I swept the floor, would that be helpful? And I feel for you guys as you try to catch the storm of your wife running around trying to pull off the perfect Christmas. And so I do, just to focus back on that Ephesians, be patient.
And guys too, I mean,
gentle.
A lot of you don't like to shop. Some women don't like to shop. I mean, it's, it's not just guys, but, sometimes again, women tend to be more relational. So I think, a lot of times what I did that did work was, hey, let's just go shopping together and let me help. So we did what we referred to earlier. We did some shopping together, and just, a lot of times I felt a little useless, but a lot of times I felt like I'm just standing here walking the mall, and a lot of times I felt like that on Christmas Eve too, which led to me watching television, which I'd get in trouble for, but
Isn't that the worst though? When you're running around crazy and everybody else is just sitting there doing nothing, and you're like, "Are you kidding me?"
But the trouble is, I don't know what to do because she wouldn't help.
So that's another point on purpose to work together is to ask what you need, which is what you said, but to be willing to delegate something, to give something, to think about that. And if you're like me and you have a plan in your head of how you want it done, what I'm going to be better at is to assign, okay, this person can do this person can do this person can do this. And so, yep, that's exactly right. As wives, we want to create a place of success for our husband. Our husband wants us to be happy, and they really do want to serve us. And so if we're running around unhappy, hard to serve, then they feel
And ultimately,
Like, how do you feel?
I don't know.
Incompetent, incomplete,
Incompetent, all of the above. But
unloved, unseen, unknown, all of those things. So we hold the
times,
keys, ladies, to inviting our husbands in to be a part of whatever it is that either whatever we're in charge of, but whatever we have a plan for, whatever's organized and whatever's not organized, whatever's chaos. When we invite them in, they can bring order to it for us.
And what I was about to interrupt with is that spouses, and I think, we were talking about wives, but I think it works both ways. We want our spouses to want to be around us, and we want to include them. So, but in reality, the actions we do actually push them away. I know, guys, I tend to go, man, you know what? I'm going to let her be her because I've tried to help. It's not working. When I do, I just seem to be stepping on her toes. I seem to be doing worse.
And you get your head bit off.
Yeah, maybe it'll be better if I just go to the barn.
I'll be safer there.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm doing more harm. I know a lot of times I think, and this is one thing to think about is, I feel like I'm doing more harm than good, so I'm going to back away. But so from the wife's perspective, in this case, the scenario we're working is try to include your husband, but then the husbands push through and realize that, that's just a smoke screen. It's coming out of the frustration. It's coming out. And it's
not about you.
And when we withdraw, we actually, it seems like it might be better in the short term, but over time it creates something that's worse. So press in and just, and press in without being offensive, hey, ask questions, try to work together. I think one thing that I did, and it may be just, go ahead and do things without in spite of what he or she does to do things. For example, this Thanksgiving, Suzanne really gets stressed around the holidays because she wants to create this experience for everyone. And we have a lot of people to create experiences for. And as hard as I've tried to say, honey, settle down, everything's okay,
you can imagine how well that goes
exactly.
over.
Yeah,
no, it's not okay.
Yes.
And I can't get it done if I'm settled down.
Exactly. And so, and I just, I keep trying that. It doesn't work. But this Thanksgiving, I just said, what could I do that would be different?
Instead of what you say, it's what you do.
Right.
Very, very powerful. Actions speak louder than words. That's good. So he stepped in and did the dishes.
All the time.
Every time there was a dish on anywhere, like people might not even be finished using their dish, and he takes it out of their hand and puts it in the dishwasher.
In fact, shows my persistent nature. I did it so much that she got mad at me for doing the dishes.
She was like, "Please stop."
But it
was good. It was good.
It worked because it wasn't just because of that, but some of the things she did as well. But she didn't have as stressful of a Thanksgiving, and it wasn't. And so it was just one way to do my part in that. And so purpose to work together. Purpose. So that's one thing, to fight the busyness of Christmas and to improve your marriage, to connect with your spouse in the busyness of Christmas. Purpose to work together. Okay.
And I just want to add just one more thing too, which we talked about, but I want to just give it words. It's all about your perspective. It's how you see each other. And that's what Dawn was talking about, is pushing through my smoke screen when I make it difficult. Just change your thought processes to, she actually wants my help, or I want to invite him in. He is a good helper. He is. And so that's what we can do for inside ourselves, is to change how we see the situation. And if it feels chaotic, then choose to see it as peaceful, and then that's going to help us create it to be peaceful.
And that's really, really hard to do, which means that you got to go to God and let him change your perspective, to see things through compassion, to see things with patience, to see through the smoke screens, because in our own power, we're not going to do that. So you got to have a trigger that says, hey, I'm going to go to God and pray about, God, what should I do here?
Ask him
How do I navigate this situation? He'll give you some help. And that relates to the second thing, is that we want a purpose to connect. We said purpose to work together, purpose to connect. And that's beyond working together, just a purpose to connect with each other relationally.
And so in 1 Peter 4:8, it says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. I love the love each other deeply. That's the connect that we're talking about. And the connection goes to cover even over a multitude of sins. We're connecting beyond how they're going to mess up. We're going to connect beyond what they do to offend us or annoy us.
It just brought to mind another verse that I think would add to this verse is James 1:19, which says, "Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." Oh my goodness. If we could just do those three things.
And it just takes one. It just takes one of you. Because with the one person can come at that or come at the situation with the slow to speak, slow to anger, quick to listen. If they can come to it with that, then that's going to diffuse what's happening in the other person.
Yeah. And so some of that is just to, think about when you walk into a room, when you walk in from work, when you wake up in the morning, when you come back from the grocery store or whatever that is, quick to listen, slow to speak, because that's a way you're going to love each other deeply. Listening and loving go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's super simple. You said all of those things, and I thought you were going to say just acknowledge each other. And Don and I had gotten into the habit, I am embarrassed to say, that we would not acknowledge each other when we walked into the room. He would come in and he would acknowledge the dog, or I would come in and I would acknowledge a child, but we wouldn't acknowledge each other. And it was like this sneaky little way that the enemy got in to almost make us be disvaluing or dishonoring to each other. And so we've purposed to acknowledge each other.
And think about it, other than your relationship with God, what's the most important relationship in your home? It's your marriage.
For sure. It's where the foundations are built. Everything's hung off of that one.
And so if you're not treating your spouse with that, acknowledging her or him as important, it just sends a little subtle message. Well, since we started seeing.
I see you. That's what the message is. I acknowledge you.
Or I don't see you.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times, even when we're having, or you may have little kids in the house, like we're having grandbabies come in right now. Well, guess what? The first thing you want to do is say, "Hey, Truett," or "Hey, Sebastian."
Because they smile and they giggle and they respond, and yeah.
Yeah, and Suzanne doesn't do that as much. She
and I don't ever giggle when you say, "Hey, Suzanne."
I know she doesn't smile and just wave her arms up and down. I can't get her to do that. So, but we get reaction. We get into certain habits. Well, acknowledging each other is really good. One of the things we found is we just need to laugh and enjoy each other. And, so many times we're talking about it's almost like it's a production meeting every time we have to be together. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on in our house with family and work and ministry and everything else.
And we are both very intense people. Have you not already figured that out?
Exactly. And so we're also fun people. We like to laugh and we like to enjoy each thing, but we tend to get distracted by
in work mode.
And we're very responsible people. And so we want to make sure everybody's taken care of, but man, we just need to laugh with each other and to choose each other over the stress and the busyness of life. Maybe that's just a date night. I know it's busy, but maybe it may not be a date night. Maybe it's just going to an hour to get a cup of coffee or something,
Or even practically within that statement of choose each other, just be with each other when you're together. And so let's say that you're going to a Christmas party, and so you count that as a date night, but you don't really want to go, and you don't want to go talk to all the people that are there. Then enjoy your time in the car on the way there and on the way back, or choose each other. Choose to go to bed at the same time, and so that you can visit and talk and cuddle, touch for a few minutes before you go to bed. Choose to communicate with each other throughout the day, whether it's a phone call or a text or whatever that is. It's just it's just a choice. And as everything comes piling in, the busyness of life comes in, for some reason, those relationships that we feel like are solid ones are the ones that get pushed aside. And that's fine, but it does create a fight in the distance between you. And so we just encourage you to choose each other, One of the things I tell dads all the time that sometimes they push back on a little bit, but I think it's been very beneficial for our marriage, not just in the holidays, but all the time, is to go to bed together.
You know, and so is that we've done that that's one of the things we've talked about, some of our failures, but it's something we do almost all the time, most of the time, if not almost all the time, not every night, but many, many nights. And regardless of what we've done, the sins of the day, we can reconcile those at night as we just listen and visit with each other. And, so that's a good thing to do for kind of to end that discussion on purposing to connect.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just know that connection takes time, and you just have to purpose to do it. It just takes time.
Some people do it when they get up in the morning, have coffee together in the mornings, out,
Beautiful.
Whatever, in the back porch or whatever. But whatever that looks like for you, for us, it's been nighttime. It's been connecting at that point. As we wrap up, just remember that, guys, that God's ways are not our ways. And so when you feel the busyness of Christmas hitting you, that's the world wanting to put chaos into your life. And so God's a God of order. God's a God of peace. And so when you feel that busyness, man, what are you going to do and especially the busyness, and you feel that conflict with your spouse, what are you going to do to change that? Because that's not God. And we've given you some ways to do that.
Yeah, so I just want to just come in here and just say, so we just challenge you to pick a way. Maybe it is to go to bed together, or maybe it is to communicate throughout the day or acknowledge each other. We are going to, and we found great success in it recently, is we are going to choose to laugh together. Over this holiday season, we're going to purpose to laugh about something every day. Maybe not several times a day. We might not can commit to that. No. But at least once a day, we are going to find something that we both find is humorous, and we're going to laugh about it.
I'm looking on the internet for dad jokes that I can tell her.
No, those are terrible. But you with little kids, y'all are lucky, because little kids always have something funny that they do. And
maybe
so that's
it's
a great thing to share about.
Or whatever. So whatever
maybe
it is.
It's goofy,
And it's okay to be goofy, who should you be goofy with? Your spouse. And if you may have a marriage that's struggling a little bit. And
laughter's hard when you're in the struggle. That is really hard. And so we're going to be praying for you that humor comes into your home and you find something to laugh about, because it breaks the ice.
And life comes into your home. Just remember, when you hit the door, when you come into a room, bring life. And you bring life to your spouse, and look for ways to connect.
Right.
And then hopefully you've come out with some practical thoughts and ideas. And we want you to make this holiday season a time where your marriage gets better. And you look up at the end of the month, when you're looking up, going into the new year, and you say, you know what, this holiday season, our marriage is better than it was when we started this, maybe Halloween to New Year's.
Right.
We want to have a better marriage during that season.
3 step forwards and only 1 step back.
That's right. Hey, go be crazy parents, crazycoolfamily.com.